Alright folks, I made a post about this on that app Lemon 8, which like that spin-off or post from like TikTok and everything. And I wanted to finally cover this subject that I've never really talked about before here in my nearly 15 years on YouTube. And that is my history with video editing software. There may be one or two that I might have barely used that I've forgotten about, but these are the 6 that I'm going to cover, because these are the main ones that I've used since I started making content all the way back in August 2010. I'm going to save Vegas Pro for last because it's going to be the most significant here, but we'll start with Windows Movie Maker. I'm not going to really talk about Live Movie Maker because I've rarely ever used it. I might have like a few videos I've ever done with it. But Windows Movie Maker, I will give credit, that is a good starter software to use for video editing. But there are limitations, of course. Because I think you have to have, like, if you're trying to import files, they have to be either WMV or AVI format. Anything else it's not going to take, which is kind of sad there. I did remember going through, like, plugins and everything to try to add effects and go for, like, 16:9 and everything, but this, as a starter software, it works, but it's, as expected, because it's a startup software for video editing, it's got its limitations. So it's like, for anybody who wants to start making videos and like doesn't want to do something more complex, at least give Movie Maker a start and then advance from there. So like that way you can kind of get your feet wet, get used to things. The second one I remember very vividly, VideoPad Video Editor. And right before I talk about this, I actually did a quick bit of research. I didn't realize they actually have a version of this software for iOS, which really surprised me. Now, I had an issue with this software at first because I was trying it on my netbook, which is where I was editing all my videos, and having a small screen size with this software is not workable. But this was the one that I used around the end of 2010, early 2011, because I do remember, like, when I was doing videos for Double Dark Z, which was my channel that I lost in September 2012 because of WWE's copyright Armageddon, I would use this to zoom in on the video to try to crop out the WWF/WWE logo on the bottom of the screen in order to try to get around the copyright detection thing, and it worked for a while. And this was also, like, I also used one of those tools to where you could overlay with your username there in the corner, which was how that got started. And I used some kind of weird effect, I can't remember what it was called, but you could use it to try to digitally, like, eliminate an image or some kind of logo on a video. It looked kind of pixelated afterwards, but I mean, it did the best job that it could. But this was a good follow-up software to use. I remember I actually talked to Attitude Classes 316 about this back in the day, and at one point he was trying to find this software, but he couldn't find the free one exact one that he liked. So I did research, found it for him, and he was thankful for it. Shout out to Attitude Classes 316, by the way. But this was a good follow-up software to use, especially if it opened more opportunities. Yeah, it didn't have a ton of effects and transitions and everything, but in terms of a step up for Movie Maker, it worked, and especially with the kind of video files you could import and everything, this worked. Now, Camtasia Studio. I will admit, I did not use this a ton, because the only time I would use Camtasia Studio was when I was using the screen recording software in there, and then you like render it as a file compatible with Camtasia Studio, and then you import it for editing. And that's usually what I did for like video game play, because I mean that was really all I did. Like, if you go on my gaming channel and you look at the Super Mario Brothers 3 videos, I think some videos I think were like NHL 2002 on Game Boy Advance and stuff like that. Any that I tried playing on PC through an emulator and I needed a screen record, I used Camtasia Studio, because I did not know about OBS or if it was even a thing back then just yet. And I'm also checking on my Switch, making sure it's okay, but this was a good one. I even recently tried to refine the software because I found video files from Pokemon Leaf Green that I completely forgot that I ever recorded, and rendered those out just to get that stuff done with. Now, Adobe Premiere / Premiere Pro, I've only maybe rendered a couple of videos with this, so I'm not very familiar with Premiere. At least from my memory, I was not too fond of this, because like it felt a little complex with trying to maneuver your way through the software, at least for my preferences. Like, it felt a bit too much. I know I rendered out the it It was that video about my Funko Pop collection from WWE that I got on the main channel, and maybe that one podcast episode that was like from like way late 2013 for when I was talking about like the Survivor Series pay-per-view or TLC or whatever it was, because I had the audio from like SoundCloud and I re-uploaded it through like did a podcast, and I decided, hey, I'll render it through Premiere and see how that goes. It's just like, it's fine, but it's just like, it doesn't feel like with how that whole thing is maneuvered and the layout and interface and everything, it just, for me, it was not the ideal one for me. Now, After Effects, this one, the only time I would ever really use it was if I'm rendering out intros, because like I would use, I think it's like story blocks or video blocks or whatever it is now. I would take those intros that they had there from the website as part of the catalog, and I would actually download the templates, upload them through After Effects, and then tweak them to try to make my own custom intros, whether it be through text or even logos. And I've got a lot of them on my folder, like here on my computer and everything, so good software there. And if you've ever been on WWE and you've seen that like static, like twitchy intro that I always have that's very brief, I did that from scratch in Adobe After Effects. I had to follow tutorials on YouTube on how to do it, because otherwise I'd be a fish out of water not knowing what the hell I'm doing. So it's like, that's a good one, but it's just like I never used it coincided with Premiere. So it's just like, that was its own standalone thing for like different things. And I do remember like I kept actually using the subscription service for this. And after a while I got rid of it because there were months on end where I would pay for the subscription for the one piece of software, even if I had an entire month where I didn't use it. So it's just like, this wasn't like the go-to software for me. But it's like, if I wanted to get an intro out there, that was an easy thing. But then the big one, Vegas Pro. In terms of my primary editing software, this has been my go-to thing since 2011. Because I do remember when I was looking for like editing software, I wanted to find videos that I could try to edit and try to fully get like a 16:9 aspect ratio. And I saw some kind of tutorial about what it was like described as the mirror border. If you see any videos on YouTube where it's just like 16:9 where you have the standard 4:3 video right there in the middle, and then it looks like a mirrored edges like on the left and right side of the exact same 4:3 but like stretched out and blurred there for a background to fill up space, that's the kind of tutorial I found, and I was like, huh, that works. And that's what led to me finding Vegas Pro, because like I found a tutorial about that, and that's been my go-to software ever since. And I know there's some people that, like, I know I talked to a TV Tummy Emu. He's surprised that I prefer Vegas Pro over Adobe Premiere. But it's like, Vegas Pro has been my go-to thing. I know how the interface works. I know every, like, knick-knack and nook and cranny that I can possibly know through Vegas Pro. Sometimes I'll look up little tutorials if I want to learn a little this or that once in a while for, like, side things. But it's like, for me, Vegas Pro feels like it's that one that fits my needs, and I can easily go through it. I know some people might look at Vegas Pro and think it's intimidating, because like it looks complex and everything. When it comes to editing on there, it's only as complex as you make it. And at least with Vegas Pro compared to the Adobe software, you don't have to pay a monthly subscription there. So there's a huge benefit, because Adobe just doesn't want you to pay a one-time fee and own it without having to constantly give them money over and over and over again. And then you want to quit the subscription, oh, you owe us a cancellation fee, because they just want to drain you of all your money, huh? But yeah, Vegas Pro, I know there have been some issues. Sometimes it'll like freeze up and crash, and I have to restart it for one reason or another. The rendering times, yeah, it can be a pain in the ass. Like the podcast episode that I did not too long ago about my choice of 5-star WWE rated matches, at least for my opinion, that video was over an hour long. And at 1080p, 60 frames per second, MP4 video file format, that video took 9 hours to render. Okay, just on this computer. I know on my other gaming piece, my gaming desktop, it can go a lot faster. Probably because like I don't use it that often in terms of like active computer usage and everything, so there's not a whole lot cluttering up to mess with the rendering speeds and everything. But still, Vegas Pro to me is that natural one. I can easily go to it, I know what I need to do, and I know how to easily get this stuff done. Just boom, boom, boom. Because like any WWE content, my podcasts, and just about anything else in general that I try to edit anymore gets done through Vegas Pro because it is so, like, I'm just so used to it. And like I said, I know some people might think that it kind of looks a little intimidating, look like it might be complex or confusing. Like I said, they're easy tutorials. I feel it's an easy thing to maneuver through. As long as you know what the basics are, like the ins and outs in terms of how to find stuff, how to work the timeline, and a few other things, it can easily be learnable. To me, I feel like that's like, it's the most complex in terms of the variety that it gives you, but it's also can be pretty easy to try to maneuver through as long as you give a little leeway and learn the ins and outs. And there are plenty of tutorials you can easily find here on YouTube too on different things you can do in Vegas Pro if you ever have any questions about that stuff. But yeah, those are the basic 6 main editing softwares that I've ever used. I know there was one director something whose name I can't easily remember. Like, I know I probably got like a card somewhere where I could easily download the software. I can't remember where it is or what the name of it was, but that other one I don't think I ever really used. But otherwise, these are like the main 6 that I've ever used in the 15 years that I've been on this platform. Like I said, the main one I always go to, Vegas Pro, love it. Not sponsored by any of these, by the way. Got to make that clear because some people try to think, oh, you speak positively, you must be endorsed. No. Okay, these are just personal opinions. Gotta give that clarification because some people just don't want to listen, do they? But anyway, let me know y'all in the comment section below. Which of these are like softwares that you're easily familiar with for video editing? Are there ones that you've used that you want to give your own perspective on? Go ahead and do so in the comments, and I'll catch you guys later. Thanks for watching, folks. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace out, and good day, everybody.